Hi guys. Hi Ife. Hi Torayo. Yay! So we're just waiting for people to come, trying to build up the audience, and hopefully, our guest also would be joining us shortly. So it's so great to see you guys. Thank you so much for coming to support us. Thank you. Oh, I feel loved. All my people. Thank you so much. Yeah. So once Tim joins, we will just kick off fully, and so just waiting for him to join. Hi, Precious. Ah, Tim is here. Cool. He's here.
Hi
Hi.
there.
Hi.
How you doing? Let me just sort myself
Great.
out.
We can hardly see you.
Is it bad?
You're back in the light, I guess.
I'm gonna move so
Sorry.
we
Yes,
get a
that's much better.
better shot. There you go. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you. Oh God, it's so
Good.
great to see you finally after all the
No,
emails and all.
I know. Thank you. Oh, yeah, well, it's great to be with you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I don't take it for granted. I know how busy
No.
you are, and yeah, so this is me just saying thank you.
Well, thank you. Could you tell me a bit more about, because you're involved in a whole bunch of stuff, aren't you? It's amazing. I know you're meant to be interviewing me, but just
It's fine.
quickly,
It's fine.
let me.
So it's fine. Okay. My name is GBK. You already know that. Um, I'm a media press. I am a media personality. I keep on. I still hold on to that title because that's what I passionately did in Nigeria.
Yeah,
Before leaving. So I am a lover of God and I'm a
yeah,
lover of music, and that kind of
yeah.
fuels what I do mostly. So I find creative ways to preach the gospel, to pass the
Yeah.
message, and one of my expressions is music. So I had
Ah,
it, and on the radio show it's primarily about music, and
okay.
gospel music to be precise.
Yeah.
And then I'm also into events and organization, but I don't want to like I'm not shying away from using the word gospel entertainer, but I kind of revolved around that. So,
Yeah, brilliant.
people, yeah, gospel media in Nigeria basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Great. And I
we
just see on this, Tebow, Tebow and Pansy. Do you know
pardon who?
Tebow? He's just joined. Do you know Tebow?
T-Bone the rapper?
Oh, is he a rapper? No, he's in Birmingham. Tebow and Pansy. Oh, okay. Anyway, hey Tim.
No,
Anyway, Tebow,
no,
welcome. You probably know lots of people.
kinda, kinda media. You get to meet lots of people, so it's
Yeah,
fine. Okay, so are we good to go?
we're good to go.
All right, cool. Thank you. So, now we started with one of your very popular worship numbers, Here I Am to Worship.
Yeah,
And it's a song that honestly I didn't know we were the one that sang it. I honestly thought it was Michael W. Smith that sang the song.
yeah.
Honestly,
Most people do, I
honestly.
think.
And it was quite surprised when I found out, oh my God, it's not Michael W. Smith. And that is to tell you that the song has impact.
Mm,
For people to want to sing your song, it must have some sort of impact.
yeah.
And obviously the opportunity for it to also reach out to other people that you may not necessarily have been able to reach out to.
Mm.
Now, it's also been said that you wrote that song when you were 19.
Yeah.
I don't know, this is
20, but yeah.
20, but you were in the university when you wrote that song.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So cool. So what was the inspiration behind it? Because my thinking is you've not really experienced life so much,
Mm.
and then you're able to pen down these powerful lyrics. So how exactly, did that song come about?
Yeah, well, I was Sheffield University studying history, and I'd been involved in a movement called Soul Survivor, which is like a youth festival mixed in the UK. And I just begun to start writing songs. I was connected with people like Matt Redman, and so it's kind of working on a whole bunch of songs. And it's at the time I'd been studying a lot about, Philippians 2, imitating Jesus' humility, gave up everything in the heavens, took on flesh, walked on the earth, obedient to death, even death on a cross. And so I began kind of writing these words: light of the world, you step down into darkness, open my eyes, let me see. And actually, initially, um, I really battled to find a chorus. Couldn't write anything. But then I had this section: I'll never know how much it cost to see my sin upon that cross. So kind of that was what I had really, is this verse that I thought, oh, there's something in that, and this little section, I'll never know how much it costs, which felt something on that. And then sometimes when you're writing songs, you work so hard to finish it, but it's an incredibly frustrating process. You just like the what you have just isn't what you want it to be. And every chorus I tried to work on just fell flat. And probably after about 6 months of trying, I kind of gave up, frustrated, left it. But I record all these ideas onto back then it was on a Walkman. Shows how old
Okay.
I am. Do you know what a Walkman is? Do you remember?
Yes.
So then I went to actually watch a movie. I remember going to the cinema. I'm watching this film called The Green Mile. It's I think it's a Stephen King novel, but it was Tom Hanks movie, and it basically had strong themes of redemption and someone stepping in, standing up, standing
Mm.
in the place of someone. Basically, so this guy who's wrongly accused of all this stuff, actually he was saving these people rather than harming them. And so I was just thinking about all of this stuff, and likening it to what I guess Christ has done for us, stepping in, taking on our sin, taking the penalty of death that should have been ours. And I just began to worship. And as I was worshiping, I just picked up again, it came to mind that bridge. I'll never know how much it costs. And I thought, okay, I really must finish this song, because I found that really helpful. I then started listening to a bunch of old recordings, melodies, and I found this melody, which was just, da 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 da. And I thought, actually, that melody could fit with the bridge, with the verse I had. And sure enough, it kind of fit together. And then I thought, right, if the verses are telling the story of what Jesus has done, the King of all days, highly exalted, all of this stuff, then the chorus just needs to be a simple response. A friend of mine, Matt Redman, talks about songs that breathe in truth, understanding of who God is, and then exhale out a response of worship and thanksgiving. And so the chorus is basically that: here I'm to worship, I'm going to bow down, I'm going to say that you're my God, you're altogether lovely. And so that was kind of how the song came about. And it's funny when you write songs, sometimes, altogether lovely, like that's such a weird phrase. I don't know where that came from. And people ask, what was the significance of that? What was your thinking? And honestly, there was no thinking. It was all just like a gut instinctive. And then it's probably later I realized actually it's from Song of Songs. And anyway, so it's just interesting. Sometimes you have these moments of inspiration as a writer where it feels like God kind of just breathes a bit of life and inspiration into you. And I think this was one of those songs. So it's a mix of hard work and I guess God and inspiration.
Wow. Wow, that is actually inspiring to write a song for 6 months. I've actually met people who've written song for 2 years, so this is not
Yeah.
too far, but
No, I mean, I think on average, actually, most songs I work on probably take about a year from start to finish. Because
wow.
I think, there are moments where you get songs that just, they come really quickly, really, and, that's brilliant. But often actually, again, I think of songwriting, often use the analogy of making a great cup of tea. You put the tea bag in, you put the boiling water in, but then actually, if you want a great cup of tea, you've got to let the tea bag brew and
True.
infuse with the water. If you pull the tea bag out too quickly, you've got a weak, horrible cup of tea. So, and I think with songwriting, it's like you have this inspiration, then you've just got to let the ideas brew and develop and think about it and process and sit with it, and that takes time. And so often I find the songwriting process does involve quite a bit of time going back and forth. Nowadays so many songs are written with other people, so you're kind of
Yeah.
communicating with them and right, this feels 90% there, but just feels like we need to dig in a bit harder to the lyrics. Another thing, often we'll record demos of them, and you can sit with them and just sort of listen. And is there anything that's slightly great that you feel like isn't quite right? And that's the joy of writing, is just trying to push it over the line to finish it all off.
That is absolutely beautiful. I've never heard the analogy of, your tea analogy makes a lot of sense. And, I love it. Thank you. Thank you. By the way, it's such a lovely song. Trust me, the song is on every worshiper's lips in Nigeria. I kid you not.
Oh,
That is how impactful the song is. I kid you not. And like
wow.
I said, like it's something that I resonate with. And I said, once I have this opportunity, I definitely have to ask about this song because it's something
Oh,
I
well,
saw.
well, I mean, at some point, my dream is to go to Nigeria, because I've met so many stunning people.
Yeah.
And I nearly happened a little while ago, but at some point, because it's just it sounds remarkable what God is doing there. And so,
Absolutely. God loves Nigeria. I'm going to leave it at
absolutely, yeah.
that. Okay. All right, cool. Next question. Now, you are, aside being a worship leader, you are a
Mm,
church leader, you're a priest at the Gastric Church in Birmingham.
yeah.
Well, would you say that, you being a priest is basically because your father also is an Anglican priest?
Yeah. I think you always, when your dad does something with your mum, you're probably, that as an option of a career, is something you'd always think through. For many pastored kids, it seems like it goes one of two ways, doesn't it? For me, I think watching my dad and my mum and how they led a church and led people, I was really inspired by it. For me, it was a really positive experience. I loved the church. I loved all the different kinds of people we got to meet. I loved seeing the church trying to engage in a community and make a difference. I loved the community and connection that came. And I guess I got to see the joy of it, but also the challenge and the pain and the exhaustion of it. Um, and so I remember when I was about probably 17, 18 years old, I really strongly felt God call me into church ministry. I felt that's what God was spoke to me about. Felt very strongly that I'd go into leading a church. But actually, there's a bit of a surprise in that started writing Here Unto Worship and these songs, started leading worship at events like Soul Survivor, and suddenly doors opened up to be, leading worship, to travel, to write songs, record albums. We set up a thing called Worship Central, where we would train and equip other worship leaders. And so almost for about 10, 15 years, that's what I was giving my time to. And then there came a point where I think those some feelings and a sense of call of, actually, I'd love just to be part of a community based in a city and really see God move in power there. And so trained to become a vicar, Church of England, and we've now been in Birmingham 5 years leading this church, Gas Street.
Wow, wow, that's actually very interesting. I think it was when I came to this part of the world, and I realized
Mm.
that actually you've been trained to be a pastor in Nigeria. Most times in many denominations, you're kind of appointed.
Yeah.
So it's also good to get this interesting dynamics, the body of Christ, but different ways that it works. So yeah, cool. Thank you, Pastor's kids. So I would say
Yeah.
I know some pastor's kids that would not align with your theory, but that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you did mention that when you began to write songs, doors began to open up. You had to travel, you had to write albums, and now you decided to be a vicar. So how do you manage the responsibilities of being a church leader and a worship leader?
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing with leading a church is just, there's a lot more things you've got to think through. I mean, in some ways, being a worship pastor, I had the joy of serving at a church called Holy Trinity Brompton in London, home of Alpha, for 10 years, and it was such a joy. And obviously, your main role is to think through the musical and worship expression of the church. But within that, you're leading people. You're quite a public face on a Sunday, and so I think I learned so much about all of those things: leadership, releasing teams, equipping people, envisioning people, being faithful year in, year out. Um, I think when we kind of stepped into leading a church, my expression of worship just broadened. So I still feel like, and I actually feel every senior pastor ultimately is the worship pastor, because they're the gatekeepers. They're the ones who really allow, what things need to be seriously invested in. So what I love is still being able to encourage people in their walk with Jesus and in the musical expression of worship, but also to be thinking, how are we helping people express their worship in the way they care for the poor and the marginalized and those on the fringes, how their worship affects their giving and their finances, how worship affects their discipleship and their journey with God and their relationships and their families and friends, how their worship affects their workplace, and how we as a church begin to be a place where we talk about, we want to be a church that's light for the city, how our love for Jesus brings light and hope in the darkness all around us. So I feel like what she did as a pastor, suddenly you've got a lot more things you have to be aware of and thinking through. And I guess it's just wider responsibility, and the expression of worship is just a much broader focus. But to me, it's the same stuff about, I want to see people fall in love with Jesus and live lives that demonstrate that love. And as a worship leader, I was focusing on how they express and meet God and the musical side of things. And now I'm thinking much more the whole of their lives.
Yeah. A holistic approach. That makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense. Oh, and you sound enthusiastic, so I can tell that you're enjoying what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, I love, I love working with people. I love people. I mean, someone's just put on, I'm a priest at the church, and I also lead worship at the church. I don't, not a priest at one church and then lead worship at another church. No, I do. I love the adventure of it. I love the unknowns of, what is God going to do? And working with a bunch of friends and a group of people who there's a sense of being committed to one another and a sense of just trying to see what God's going to do in a community, in a city, year after year is amazing. That faith adventure together is, so when we moved to Birmingham, we've got this old building, a warehouse. It's like a gas retort house. Now, I doubt people here know what a gas retort house is, but it is basically, what would happen is they'd bring the coal off the canals of Birmingham, and in this building, they would renovate and transform the coal into gas, which could then be used to light up the street lamps. And this building had been redundant for about 60 years, but it's massive, right in the city centre. And we managed to buy it, but we needed to raise £2.3 million just to get it to a place where we could begin to meet in the building. Actually, initially we needed £1.2 million. And so with a group of friends, we're stepping into this venture. I've never had to fundraise before. We didn't have a massive church. So how do you get that level of giving? And it was like a miracle adventure. And it's like a step of faith of God. How's this going to come together? And, week after week, these incredible gifts, supernatural, money would just come in, and we were able to raise the money. And now we're able to use this building as a place for people to meet and fall in love with Jesus, and a place to resource and equip people. So there's nothing more exciting than seeing God work and get to do that with your friends. And that's why I love church and love leading a church.
All right, thank you so much. It's like the Holy Spirit gave you a sneak peek to my next question. I was going to ask, 1 second, I'm trying to pin this. Some people are asking if I could pin it.
Sure.
How do they do this? Okay, there you are. Sorry, thank you. So, I was going to ask, you just made mention of the fact that you have a church, a warehouse turned church in the city center of Birmingham, and my understanding is that place is quite central. So there are pubs, there are clubs around it.
Yeah.
Everything that are not so church friendly, church related, and the church is right in the middle of that. So was that kind of strategic? Was that a strategic plan to be centered in that place? And have you kind of had challenges, with the neighbors or the people around, saying, why are you bringing church in the middle of my business? Do you want a small business from me or something?
Yeah. Well, so the Bishop of Birmingham, amazing guy called David Urquhart, he was keen for us to plant a church in this area because Birmingham demographically is the youngest city in the whole of Europe.
Oh,
And if you look at the Church of England, statistically, the people in that age group, say 18s to 35, very, very few people are at church. But actually, there've been interviews and surveys done, but actually that same age demographic are spiritually very, very inquisitive. They're really open, but the church just hasn't been great at connecting with particularly that demographic. And so that was kind of in our thinking. And then when we found this building and its location, right, as you said, in the center where we're surrounded by nightclubs, strip joints, pubs, bars, kebab shops, curry houses, the lot. Actually, that just feels amazing to be able to be right in that place. And actually, before we were able to move into the building we're in now, we actually were meeting in a nightclub. And I think what the great thing about that was it really helped us set the vision for the church, that we want to be a community that can reach out to people who perhaps would feel a bit uncomfortable stepping into a traditional church building, but actually are spiritually open. And and there's been amazing things, seeing loads and loads of people come to Christ, loads of people, loads of students, loads
wow.
of people who, amazing, that's kind of partly what we want to see is people who are partying on a Friday night, they're finding Jesus at church on a Sunday, so that's, it's been, I think, really great location that we've been able to be based to really say to people in that stage of life, we want you to think about who Jesus is and what difference he can make to your life.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, okay, so we're moving from the generals now to the specifics. So this year has shaken a lot of people,
Yeah.
shaken a lot of people. COVID happened, COVID is still happening.
Mm.
And I feel like people, because the whole world suddenly became online, virtual, people kind of began to look for hope that they could feel, something tangible.
Yeah.
But, and then the message of the gospel is God is spirit, hope is there, but it's not something you may be able to see and, touch. Well, if you believe, you would, feel it. Now, how have you been able to manage that? You said you're a people's person, you're a worship leader, you're a church leader, so tons of people look up to you. So how was it during the COVID, the initial, outbreak of COVID, and trying to encourage and remind people that what, God is still here?
Yeah, really hard, to be honest. It's been really hard. I think for everyone, the uncertainty of what's to come, that slight anxiety around our own health or the health of the people we love, the mundane thing of just kind of at home, it's another Zoom, it's all of these things have really tested us and challenged us. And I've found actually I've had to work really hard each morning, really sustain hope. There's a verse that I've really found helpful throughout this whole period. It's in Romans 12, verse 12. And it says, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. And I think, that it's like this idea of being joyful in hope. There's something that we need to do at a time where there's so much despair, so much hopelessness, is to be thankful, to thank God for all he's done for us, to choose to find hope. And the way I ultimately find hope is by reminding myself of who Jesus is, what he has come to do, what our future is in him, and getting that eternal perspective. And as I do that, begin to find this hope rises up that means, do you know what, whatever I'm going through, whatever today brings, there's a bigger story unfolding. Patient in affliction. Again, this reminder, I think sometimes, particularly in the West, whenever things are hard, we often think God's abandoned us.
Yeah.
But actually, just been doing some conversations with people, particularly in the persecuted church. Actually, when there's persecution, trials, and challenges, it's a sign of God at work. It's a sign of God's presence that actually, Jesus promises persecution, promises challenges. So I think actually we've got to choose that patience, just keep going, that actually there will be tough things that come our way, but I'm not going to give up, that determined thing. And then the final thing, faithful in prayer. Again, I think if there's anything that has been really encouraging and a great thing that's been coming out, certainly in our church, but I see this in many churches, is we're realizing we're so limited in our own strength. You know, we can't do it in our own strength. We can't find a vaccine. We can't shift, you know, this virus. We can't gather people into our buildings. So actually, what can we do? We can pray. And
Right.
actually, that's probably going to be way more, what is going to be way more effective than any brilliant song we write, any brilliant talk we deliver, any brilliant church we build. And we just got to be faithful, and prayer is absolutely key at this time. So I think it's sometimes when God brings you to your knees, you know, makes you feel weak and a bit helpless, that actually you begin to lean into his resources. So I think this could be a really powerful thing for the church globally, to sort of pray more, to trust that God's going to do something in and through the dark times we've lived through.
Absolutely. I think I like the word you used. You said lean into God's resources. And, you know, that's absolutely, absolutely important, especially when COVID is still here.
Yeah.
Even though, yes, the vaccine is there, but, you know, it's still here. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
lean into God's resources. Thank you for that. Now, my favorite part of this interview.
Oh,
So,
gosh.
so the blessing.
Oh, yeah.
No, so I think if I remember correctly, it was your version that I heard first before I even heard the
Okay.
original version.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was bang on the middle of the pandemic, you know, everyone struggling with, you know, faith, hope, trying to keep yourself together. And, you know, this wonderful piece of music comes, you know, thank God for social media. It was able to disseminate fast. And when I heard the original, what's it called, the original version, it was just something that you know, it was just my next best friend, you know, having to remind, you know, consciously reminding yourself of God's promises. And this is, you know, very simple, but this is what God is saying to you. And I would like to ask, how did you come about that idea? And, you know, how were you able to get people to contribute to it in the middle of the pandemic? And what was the experience like so far?
Yeah, so I mean, this song written by these amazing writers in America, and you know, I'd heard the song, and then actually, it was a church. I think it was in Pennsylvania, in America. A whole bunch of churches got together and done, all churches doing a version of the song. So I cannot claim for a moment it was my original idea. But I saw this and thought, this is really moving. And I love the fact that there was no named artist. It was just the name of the church singing this song, coming together to proclaim this blessing over the area. And in the space of 24 hours, Nicky Gumbel, who leads HTB, and a guy called Pete Gregg, who leads a movement called 24/7, they both called me up and said, have you seen this version? Do you think we could do something in the UK? And so when you got these two great leaders getting in touch, I thought, okay, well, let's give it a go. And I called a friend of mine, a guy called Les Moore, and I said, look, let's have a go at trying to do this. Let's try and invite as many churches as we can. Let's be thinking how we can encourage a version that really demonstrates and expresses the rich, diverse church in the UK. And let's try and capture this. So we wrote to about, I think it's 65 churches in the end. Look, could you sing the song, film yourself doing it, and send it to us? And you've got to do it within 3 days. And, you know, you've probably worked a bit with musicians. You know, organization isn't perhaps their strongest thing. But amazingly, people did. They all did. And then we began to edit it together, and it was so moving doing this, partly just seeing all these people singing out these words over the UK, over themselves and their families. And then as we began to piece the video together, just seeing, you know, so you had, you know, Jesus House, you know, Church of the Redeemed, you had HTB, you had all these different Church of England churches, you had the Vineyard, you had Pioneer, you had the Methodists. There's a stunning moment where the Salvation Army was singing. Yeah, everyone says that's their favorite bit, you know, guys in their suits singing away, and it was just incredible to see so much diversity. And then you know, the Orthodox Church wanted to be involved, and it's such, so it felt like we kind of, you're never going to capture everyone quite, but it felt like it really caught the breadth of the church in the UK, which was really, so I think it demonstrated this sense of unity, this togetherness. But I think, again, it was at the peak, wasn't it, where there was so much anxiety. And I think just to be able to sing out, He's for you, He is for you, God's with you, you know, He wants to bless you. Um, it felt really beautiful. And then the final thing that I loved was that it demonstrated at a time where the church buildings were shut. Actually, the church was so alive and in many ways stepping into its mandate in a way like it hasn't for years in terms of, you know, being there, food delivery services, caring for those in need, and just we got to hear all the things different churches were doing in their local areas. Stunning acts of kindness, acts of service and generosity, caring. And so it's just brilliant to say, hey, our buildings may be shut, but the church is alive. And it was remarkable just to see the connection it made people all over the UK.
Thank you. Like the Holy Spirit keeps giving you pointers, and I really do not like it. I really do not like it because you're just stealing into my next my next question. Anyway, that's fine. So I was going to ask you to unpack that statement. The building is closed, but
Yeah,
the church is alive. And
yeah,
you've kind of unpacked it a bit where you said that yes, physically the buildings were shut, but
mm,
the church, people lending a hand to each other, people being more active,
mm,
online, trying as much as possible to how will I put it now? To show the love and show the hope of Jesus Christ,
yeah.
even in the midst of the whole, of the whole confusion. I think that is one thing that I think this year, if I'm allowed to say that, that's just one thing that kind of has what's that word? Has made people see Jesus more, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
So let me see. Yeah. I think you've already answered that question, so that's fine.
Great.
Now, so still in the whole, midst of the whole pandemic, you got
Yeah,
an honor, you got an appreciation from the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
yeah.
He applauded you for your efforts. He awarded you the Point of Light Award. So how did that feel for you?
I mean, it is a nice encouragement. It kind of felt like, you know, so many people involved. It's such a big team effort. So I didn't feel personally that necessarily I deserved it. But I think what was encouraging, again, it was just a sign that the Prime Minister had recognized and seen something that the church had done to really speak hope and life into the nation. And so that's why I felt it's just a real great encouragement that actually people are aware that God had been doing something and that the church actually is very much alive and active.
Great, great, lovely. Thank you. So, let me see. Okay, so someone said I should ask that what advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, I think about this quite a bit. Do you know, I would always say to myself, I wish I'd risked more. I wish I'd risked more. I think that's the kind of thing in life, isn't it? You always think, oh, maybe I could have been more bold or more courageous or tried that. Um, I certainly never look back and think, oh, I wish I'd been more cautious. So, I think in some ways, I feel I'm at a stage of life where I'm taking the biggest risks I've ever taken. Um, because I just more, the older I get, and just see the world we're in. We're in such chaotic, challenging times. You know, the world is in a desperate. You see everything that's going on in America and in Nigeria, in the UK, and it's just like heartbreaking. And the church needs to be bold and radical. We have this gospel message, this truth, this hope that Jesus Christ is the light of the world. He's the one that comes to bring life and life in all its fullness, and he's the hope, he's the one, and yet sometimes I find myself just being a bit nervous about telling people about that, or how will people think about me, or what will it look like, or got to be bold and step of faith. That's what, be bold, take risks.
Okay, be bold, take risks. Thank you. So, what lessons from 2020 are you going to take into 2021, aside being
Yeah, well, I think I was talking to someone about this today. I think 2020 has stripped us of so much, hasn't it? It's stripped us of, I think the danger is, you're leading a church or leading a movement and there's life and it feels like things are going well. And you can just get a bit more confident in yourself, which is a dangerous thing to do as a follower of Jesus Christ. And actually, I think there's something that is just all the ways we've done stuff in the past. It's like God stripped some of this away. So like being able to gather large groups of people to pray and worship, we can't do that. So we've got to find other ways to worship, and we've got to release and cultivate our own expression of worship that isn't reliant on a great band at the front of church. We've had our lives have been fairly samey, every day I wake up, right, go for my walk, come down, sit at my desk, turn on my computer, there's been something that's quite mundane about it. But actually, what I'm trying to learn is being faithful in the small things, just to keep going, to find Jesus in the ordinary. And yet at the same time as being comfortable to embrace some of those things within me that God's brought to the surface that, have needed challenging, needed pruning, needed developing. Also within that, to hold on to this sense of expectation. So I'm here feeling like there's a frustration and dealing with some disappointments of what we've had to journey through, but also holding on to this. My God is mighty. He's all powerful. The same power that raised Jesus from the grave lives in me. He that is in us is greater than he that lives in the world. And so I'm trying to hold on to this. I might feel like everything is being limited, but God can do incredible things. And I want to hold on to this hope. So you're holding together. Paul, he talks about it, the Apostle Paul, he talks about, I love this phrase. He says, sorrowful, yet always rejoicing. And I think that's something we need to carry. There's a pain and a challenge that we've been journeying through, but we've got to hold on to the rejoicing, the goodness of God, the hope we have in Jesus Christ. And I think there's a sense for me of that kind of like acknowledging the disappointment and pain, but holding on to the expectation that God is at work and God is going to do extraordinary things. And we will get to see the goodness of God in the land of the living, as it says in Psalm 27.
Oh, God. Pastor, preach on. Thank you. Okay, so cool. We're winding down now. I would like to ask if anyone just has any question, please feel free to drop it if you have any questions. Now, so aside, when you're not in work mode, so when you're not in pastor mode, when you're not in music mode, or maybe family mode, how do you like chill?
How do I chill? I mean, I love listening to music. Do you know, my favorite album of late is Taylor Swift's Folklore. Absolutely love that. Anyway, so don't judge me. So I've enjoyed that. So listening to music, I love food, eating, and then for me, I love sport. So I love playing golf. I love football. I love rugby. I love watching any sports documentary. Again, my favorite thing was Last Dance. Don't know if you saw the documentary on Michael Jordan. And I've not massively got into basketball before, but oh my goodness, love it. So I love learning about the psychology of sport and the courage of these incredible athletes. And yeah, so that's what I like to do.
Nice, thank you. So someone is asking, how do you define worship?
I think, put simply, I'd say worship is our all-consuming response to God's initiating love. So we love because he first loved us.
Yep.
And because he first loved us, when we understand what Jesus has done for us, our response is all-consuming. It affects everything about who we are. So to think that an adequate response of worship is just to sing a song, to me is crazy, because it needs to affect my money, my resources. It needs to affect the way I obey Christ in my relationships. Again, Jesus said, if you love me, you'll obey my commands. So obedience is an expression of worship. So for me, worship affects everything. The reason we as a church want to be mindful and caring of the marginalized, the poor, those who have little in our city, well, it's not because I'm a good person, it's because I love Jesus. And Jesus, through the scriptures, teaches us that actually you want to be like him, then that's what you do. And actually, you find as you begin to get alongside people, you discover more of Jesus, because God's posturing is always towards those who've been marginalized, the widows, the orphans. Again, when it comes to giving, the reason I love to give financially is not because, I'm just an incredibly generous person. No, it's because I actually believe that God says, when I put him first with my money, he's going to bless me. And actually, it's a joy to be able to give. God's given me everything. The breath in my lungs is a gift from him. So why wouldn't I want to give extravagantly back? So I think when you think about worship as a response to God's love that affects everything about us, we begin to get a bit closer to what worship really is.
Wow, that is actually very profound. Thank you. You're actually making me see things differently. Like I know it, but your illustration is kind of very helpful and very resourceful. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So do you have any new album up your sleeves?
Yeah, we are actually, so the Church of Republic of Gash, we're just finishing off recording an EP at the moment. It's going to be like 2-part EP. It's called Rewilding. And actually, we've not announced this yet. So this is the first place we've announced it. So there you go, exclusive. But there's been this project in West Sussex. Bear with me, okay? So there's this massive estate, the Knepp estate, 3,500 acres of land. And in 2001, they began this pioneering project. Basically, they've been cultivating, kind of farming the land. And the land was getting more and more kind of barren, and they were struggling financially. And they thought, we're going to just try this project. It's called Rewilding, where we're going to let everything grow. We're going to get rid of the fences, let the animals roam free, just let nature take its course. And what happened was over the next 10, 15 years, incredible growth, but all these amazingly rare species began returning: pelican falcons, purple emperor butterflies, all of these incredible vegetation came. And the land produced an incredible yield. They weren't bothered about, the yields and what would happen, the goals they'd set. Just amazing things began to happen. And as a result, they're actually making more financial, it's becoming better financially for them. But actually, it's become a real a way many people are talking now about trying this rewilding project, just letting things go. And I think in the church, in our worship, we need a bit of a rewilding project where things at times I think have got a bit contained, particularly some of the churches I'm connected with. I think sometimes we've pursued professionalism instead of passion. I think we've been too worried about how things sound and look and excellence. And so we as a church just want to go on this rewilding project where God just do what you want to do, release freedom and joy in our worship. We'll organize and plan things, but if your spirit comes and changes things, we want to go with what your spirit is doing, because we know your spirit brings life. Where the spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. So that's kind of the journey we're on. And so this little album is just stepping into God. We want to release songs, release worship, and see what your spirit does. We're not going to overthink it. We're not going to overanalyze it. We're just going to step into the adventure of worship. And so I think hopefully the album is going to start coming out in February. And we've loved using these songs at church, and I hope others will enjoy them too.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that exclusive. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And I'm so grateful also trying to wrap up here. Do you by chance play the guitar?
I do, yes.
Is that one I see behind you there?
That actually is a cello, but I have got a guitar behind me. Do you want me to get the guitar?
We just, it would be good for you to round up with a song, don't you think?
Okay. You're putting me on the spot. What?
You kind of did it already, so.
What song do you want me to sing?
2 songs, if you don't mind.
Fun?
Okay. The request after they're coming in. I was gonna say, "Here I Am to Worship" and The Blessing.
The Blessing, I actually don't know how to play that all on my own.
Really?
well, I'd need all the words in front of me because I basically edited together everyone else singing it, didn't I? So I can
Okay,
do
but
I saw
okay.
someone say "Happy Day." Could
Happy
do
day,
that
yeah.
or
Happy day, and here I am to worship.
okay. Right, let me greatest day in history. Death is beaten, you have rescued me. Sing it out, Jesus is alive. Are you gonna sing as well? The empty cross, the empty grave. Lost eternal, you have won the day. Shout it out, Jesus is alive. He's alive. And oh, happy day, happy day. You wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, happy day. I'll never be the same. When I stand in that place, free and left, seeing face to face, I am yours, Jesus, you are mine. Endless joy, perfect peace. Life eternal, you have made a way to celebrate. Jesus is alive. He's alive. And oh, happy day, happy day. You wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, happy day. I'll never be the same. Forever I'm changed. What a glorious, glorious day. I'll never be the same.
Yay!
Do you know, I haven't played that song for probably 9 months to a year because we not playing at church much. So anyway, I was trying to remember it as we go. Just before, I've got to go and pick up my kids from school. So let me just do a bit of Here I'm to Worship, okay?
That's
And if
fine.
you're watching at home, join in. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. And I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. I never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. And here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Amen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Like, if you could go
Thank
through the
you.
comments, you're just, such a bit of an emotional moment going on right now. People are happy,
Oh,
reminiscing about the first time they learned the song.
oh.
And I just want to say thank you. You're such a vibe, team. I can't wait to meet you. You're such a vibe.
Yeah. Well, you are an awesome interviewer.
Oh,
You're
bless.
so
Thank
good. You're
you.
such a gift. I'm not surprised you're involved in media, but thank you for, yeah, really good to chat. Let's do it again.
Yes, thank you so much. Have yourself a lovely, lovely weekend, and
Thank you.
hopefully I will be sending an email very soon.
All right. God bless. Thanks for joining, everyone. See you later. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Thank you to everyone who's joined this session. I really, really appreciate your participation. Thank you so much. You guys have made it fun. Thank you. And I hope you don't forget all the great things that he said today. Don't forget that, you know what, worship is our response to God's love. That's like the best line for me today. So thank you guys. Have yourselves a lovely and a wonderful evening and a blessed weekend ahead. I love you guys. Bye.